Hello again. Today I thought I would show you my style evolution. What have been the series of events that have brought the pink marshmallow you see before you today? So let's get started on this walk through memory lane. I've had a very distinctive sense of style from a very young age. I've always been sure of what I want to wear on that day. Though as an actual kid, I was a really big tomboy. You can see here I'm rocking a nice sweatshirt and sweatpants combo, but I have a AJ from the Backstreet Boys hat. Loved this hat. Got some sweet limited 2 action going on in this shirt. Though I don't know who in my family dressed me in all white, because as big of an impossibility then as it is now. Really questioning my mom on that one. I'm now wondering who on Depop is now owning that shirt. But now we're gonna get into the real meat of the video and start from when I'm about 13 years old, which is when my personal style really started to develop. In this picture, I'm 13 years old and I'm just about to go to my very first concert ever, Rasputina, which is like a cello goth rock band. What I really wish I had a better picture of is the top I'm wearing underneath all of this, a bustier style lavender corset top. It was my favorite piece of clothing. Got those early 2000s accessories, chandelier, earrings, and the party beads. Nothing says suburban white girl more than this photo right here. Moving on through the high school years. And like many fashionable women on the internet, it seems, I started out as a emo scene kid. And you can start to see my desire to dye my hair in these photos. Now in high school, even though I was dressing really scene, I was already into vintage fashion and old movies. And even though it wasn't the most refined, it was still working its way into my personal style. In this photo, I'm playing around with a bit of a 60s aesthetic, going around the mall, taking photos with the various stores and their interiors as our backdrop. High school Salinda was already all about the pink hair and the high collars. I have loved a high collar for, well, since high school. You can see here in this picture me starting to experiment with different sets. Really didn't know what to do about brushing it out, so I kind of just left it. In this picture, my heart goes out to teenage Salinda who's dealing with all of that acne. I know how painful that is because it's me in the picture. But seeing it back all these years later, This is my junior homecoming dress. This is one of the first head-to-toe vintage looks that I really committed to. Bought this skirt and bustier from an antique store in LA, and my grandma attached them and turned them into a one-of-a-kind vintage homecoming dress. I had on my mom's pearls and a hairstyle that absolutely does not go with the aesthetic. So now we're leaving high school and entering my late teens, early 20s, where I'm on my own for the first time and my style really has a chance to develop on my own. I'm working with the vintage shapes in this one. I wore this like little polka dot circle skirt to death, certainly a lot shorter than I would go nowadays. And I love a ruffled sock. Any sock that can complement an outfit, I think really punches above its weight. Would never wear heels that size though, these days. In these late teens photos, you can really see my style shifting from the scene emo aesthetic and me latching more onto those vintage shapes, messing around with vintage hairstyles as I started to do the old classic twist and push. And yeah, baby Salinda does vintage. But of course, my style wasn't always this aesthetic. I also dressed kind of basic sometimes. I've always been into EGL Japanese street fashion. In this period, I got a few dresses and really started to open up that aspect of my wardrobe. I've always been into classic EGL fashion, which really has a lot of similarities with cottagecore today. And I think it's why I've latched on to cottagecore so strongly and have just gone into it with full force, because it's like these aesthetics and shapes and floofiness have always like been so dear to my heart. They're finally in fashion, so the fashion is more accessible to me than it ever has been and I can wear it on a more casual level. See here, my hair dyeing tendencies are showing their face again. Love me a suspender skirt. I think the biggest difference between me wearing this outfit now versus wearing it then, I just don't wear skirts that short anymore. Though I was getting into the maxi skirt then as well. This is a classic Salinda outfit, cold shoulder top, very 2010. And I'm about to say the most 2013 thing that's maybe ever been said. I got this flower crown after finding it on the floor after a set at Coachella. Moving more into my mid to late 20s, I've still got some vintage vibes going on, though I'm exploring a little bit more with the 60s and 70s aesthetic, though I am still doing California hot weather vintage as well. This was also the period that I worked at Urban Outfitters, and in some outfits, boy, you can feel the 2016 Urban Outfitters vibes. In this photo, I'm looking like this because I was serving a girl. She was like a 14-year-old teenage girl, and she asked me, "Are all the things you're wearing from Urban Outfitters?" And I said, "Oh yeah, it actually is." And she goes, "Looks like it." And that's the most roasted I've ever been. I had to go take a break and try to recover from that absolute roasting. Wow. My mid to later 20s were more of a witchy vintage aesthetic. Got ruffle shoes and clogs. We got black lipstick, a circusy type look with statement eye makeup. My witchy bell sleeve dress with deep plum hair, faded out a bit in this vintage style look. I was really rocking the straightened hair with vintage. I think I just got a bit fed up with setting my hair, especially in California, like a lot of hair to be on my neck when it's so hot. But as I was back in England, I was experimenting with my curler sets a bit more and bringing that aspect of my style back into my wardrobe. Now, this is where I stop having so many photos to show you. My phone had like 0 memory, and I had this phone for a number of years. So every time I wanted to take new photos, I had to delete some old photos. The only problem was I thought the photos I was deleting were being backed up when they were not. So we're just gonna work with what we have, and you're gonna have to take my word for it. But after a stint with blue hair, I got really into earth tones and pinks, and I got a sewing machine in 2018, and that's when I started sewing and making clothes for myself. And it's when I finally realized that I had the capacity to dress how I've always wanted and make the clothes that I always wanted to wear. And that kind of brings me to today. When I try to define my style, I don't want to ever be too specific. My style is always changing and always evolving. I hate being pinned down. I love fashion because I can be one completely different thing one day, an entirely different aesthetic the next. And that's what's fun about having a personal style. And I'm really excited to see how my style develops in the future. I would love to know what you thought of my style evolution. Were you a scene or emo kid in high school who is into flowy, poofy dresses now? If you are, join the club. There's a lot of us, it seems. And I would love to know how your style has changed and what has stayed true in your lifetime. Thank you so much for watching if you made it this far. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate if you could like it. And if you want to see more from me, please subscribe. I upload new videos every Friday. I hope you have a great day wherever you are, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye!